All right, all right. Welcome back. Cocktails, Code, and Conversation. What's going on, C3 Squad? How y'all doing tonight? All right, all right. So we are live back, man, and it is February. It is Black History Month. Gotta love that. And so doing a special edition of the live podcast tonight. Story time with Dave. I want to tell you guys a little story that just as I was reflecting on Black History Month and some of the things I love about this month. I mean, I love all things about Black history in general. I studied a lot when I was a kid in high school and even in middle school. I was in a lot of advanced classes, stuff like that. And out in Cali, they called it GATE, Gifted and Talented Education System or something like that or whatever. I don't know. I didn't make up the name, people, but we had a chance to study a lot of different things. And so I chose to study a lot of things with, Black history, the civil rights movement, things of that nature. So I'm always excited at the time this month because I get to share different things. And it's very interesting to see people learn new things about Black history that they probably didn't already know, learn about new names, different faces, things of that nature, instead of kind of like the same old that we always kind of get taught, which is Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. Maybe some people learned about Malcolm X, but I think at this point, Malcolm X is pretty popular. Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman. But I like to, dig a little bit deeper into different topics that or people that you may not have known. So we're going to start this off with a little story time. After that, we're going to jump into, I got to talk about GameStop, man. This whole thing that's going on right now is so crazy. I've had so many great conversations about that. So we're going to talk a little about that. And then I got a surprise for the C3 Squad. For everybody watching and listening, I got a surprise for you as well. So we'll talk about that. Some new features coming to the C3 podcast, and then some updates that's coming on the Corner Podcast Network. So without further ado, we are going to get started. This is the C3 podcast brought to you by On the Corner Media. Check it out at onthecorner.us for more great content. We've got a budding podcast network that we are growing. Sorry, as I'm hearing like outside noise from the window. I'm like, what is that? We got a budding podcast network. We've got All Mixed Up, which is on a little bit of hiatus, but they are coming back strong. New episode coming soon. Of course, Open Door Conversations. We've been working on that one for our next couple of months. And then we have we got some other talent that we're talking to. Can't say anything right now, but we're hoping to have them on the network and roll out some new podcasts for you. We're also looking at doing more editorials. And so you're going to have some written content on the corner as well. So all kinds of things going on the Corner media groups. So check us out at onthecorner.us, proud sponsor of the C3 podcast. And you guys know, as always, if you've been following the podcast, especially for the last couple of weeks, you guys have heard a lot about this. Got to give a special shout out to Bronzeville Watch Company. So I got my latest new Bronzeville watch on, freshly minted, freshly ordered. Bronzeville Watch Company. You guys can check them out at Bronzeville Watch Co. I love everything about this company. I love everything about this watches. And of course, speaking about Black History Month, I got to tell a little bit of story about Bronzeville. So Bronzeville was a well-to-do kind of African-American community in Chicago back in, I believe it was like the 1940s, 1960s, somewhere around there. So for all you people who study that, correct me, let me know. But I found out about Bronzeville when I met the owner of this company, Bronzeville Watch Company. Him and his wife was back at NBA All-Star Weekend back, which seems like forever ago, when we can go out and be around people. And I was introduced to them. I was introduced to watches. I'm a big watch person. I love it. And so I was able to just kind of talk with him, and he told me about Bronzeville and what inspired him to do that. And I just loved everything about the watches, right? So please check them out, Bronzeville Watch Company. You're going to love their watches. If you're into watches, you're absolutely going to love the design. They actually do have a ladies line as well. So we're not leaving you out, ladies. You can get your nice watch as well. So Bronzeville Watch Company, check them out. Proud sponsor here at the C3 podcast. Shout out to my mans out there doing his thing. So without further ado, people, let's jump into it and let's get started. So story time with Dave. All right. I'm going to take you guys way back to 1999. Yeah, that's where all this grade comes from. So it was, after graduation, I had already decided to attend the illustrious North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, Aggie, right? Can I get Aggie pride out there? If you're listening, if you're watching, Aggie pride. And I was excited about it. Now, growing up in Southern California, I didn't know much about historically black colleges or universities. In fact, I didn't know anything at all. I didn't even know they existed until the likes such as North Carolina A&T, Hampton, Tuskegee started, sending me letters to attend the school. And so I remember the first time A&T actually wasn't the first letter that I got. It was actually from Hampton. I just remember looking at it and I was like, I don't know what this is. I just put it to the side. I was like, whatever. And then it was Hampton, then Tuskegee. And then I actually got a letter for football for North Carolina A&T. So that I was really excited about that. The other ones were for academics, but I got a letter for football from A&T. So I was super excited. News flash towards the end, it didn't work out. I didn't even play football, but it didn't matter. I did go to A&T. But that started me down this path. I was like, well, what is North Carolina A&T? And I looked it up and I went to the website and I'm like, there's nothing but black people. Like, what is this? I was like, is this legal? Does this exist? Wait, we can do this? Like, there's a college I can go to where it's nothing but black people. I was like, that's so cool. So then I started studying more, learned out about historically black colleges, universities, learned about Tuskegee. Then I started going through and I was like, wait, that sounds familiar. Found that I got some letters from Tuskegee. I got some letters from Hampton. I was like, wow, this is a whole thing. So, and I was really excited about it. And I remember when we went to go visit, my mom and I went to go visit the campus. And I'll never forget as we're coming down off the airplane, we're landing and flying over Greensboro, North Carolina. And for a Cali kid, right, seasons didn't really mean that much to me, right? It was like, all right, whatever. It was winter, summer, spring, fall, whatever. All right, cool. Like, I mean, we can go to the beach year round. So it's like, it's just too cold to go to the beach in winter, but we can still go. But as I remember, as we were coming down, just kind of watching the trees and it was springtime. Early springtime and seeing the full colors of trees, right? And it was just so vibrant. And I was like, wow, this is different. And I remember the vibe as we walked kind of downtown. We stayed at a hotel downtown, checked in, and first of all, the whole Southern hospitality. Everybody was super friendly, something that I was not used to at all coming from California. We're just rude. I mean, that's just what it is. Anybody from the South sounds like Californians, especially anybody spending time in LA, like we're just rude. So I wasn't used to that, but it was so interesting. Like everybody treated you like family. And I remember as we were telling people why we were there to visit North Carolina A&T, like everybody had a story and everybody just held it in such high regard and reverence. So fast forward, I ended up saying, yeah, I want to go, accepted it. I was super excited to go. And so it's after graduation, hanging out with my high school friends, right? And it's that summer before adulthood, right? We're most of us are going to take off and go figure out what the rest of our lives are going to be. And for some of us, it's the last time we're really going to hang out, right? Of course, we don't know it then, but looking back on it, and I can definitely say I kind of felt that things were going to be different, right? I knew I was going away to school, and I really didn't know when I would be coming back. I figured I would, but I knew that I at least would be going away from school. So, I'm hanging out, and there's a high school classmate of mine, and we were good friends in high school. And she says, hey, so where are you going? I said, it's North Carolina A&T. And she goes, I've never heard about that. I was like, yeah, it's really cool. So historically black college or university. She goes, what does that mean? I was like, it's a college like where it's, 95 to 99%, African-American. And it's pretty cool. And she was like, well, I feel like I'm kind of offended by that. And I was like, really? Why is that? And she goes, well, like, I mean, like, why would you just want to go to school that's all black? Like they don't allow white people? It's like, I don't think it's that they don't allow white people, but it's specifically geared towards African Americans, and it's got a whole history. And so I went through all that with her and why HBCUs were formed, and still she kind of had this this feeling like that it was offensive to her, right? And which my response was, and of course I was a lot more nice than I am now. But my response then was like, I really don't understand how like your feelings about what you want to do has anything to do with me and what I want to do and the school that I choose to attend. And the biggest thing I remember she goes, well, how would you feel if I told you I was going to a school just for white people? I was like, oh, you'd be telling me that you're just going to school. Because go look around, like that's literally most of the time what you see at schools, right? So and of course that kind of took her aback. And I mean, look, it didn't end horribly, right? We later on as kind of years passed, kind of understood, and I think as I went there and experienced it, I could explain a little bit more why it was so important to me to go, because at that time, right, I had never experienced anything like that. I'd always been around predominantly white schools, right? And I the chance to go in at this age and time in my life, to go be around people who were getting degrees and who wanted to do more for themselves, but we all had a similar experience. We all had a bond that we could share together, which is being Black in America. That was hugely important to me. And there wasn't a real way that I could explain it to her because I hadn't experienced it yet. So it wasn't until I got there on the campus and I felt that connection. I felt the history of A&T. I bonded with my professors. I bonded with alumni, or old heads as we called them, right? That I really understood, and that this was a place for me to be, that I could go and be comfortable and go into adulthood around this comfort, right? Knowing that, the rest of my life, right, that I would probably still be in rooms and opportunities where, maybe there might be one or two of us, but this was a chance where I would always be surrounded and being pushed by people that looked like me, and we could share those stories. And one of the things that led me to go to this story time is I shared that on Twitter the other day, and I had a couple of people hit me up because I talked about the one thing that I was so proud of going to A&T was that I got a chance to be forever linked as alumni to pioneers such as Ronald E. McNair and the Greensboro Four, and a lot of people hadn't heard of them. And so it kind of led people to go Google and then, kind of find out like who these people were. And for Ronald McNair, as an engineering student, if he went to A&T, McNair Hall is named after him. And so we learned a lot about Ronald McNair. And that was always special to me every time that I walked into that hall, right? Knowing that he was an alumni, and that, going through, and graduating with that degree, I would share like some kind of connection. And, the Greensboro Four, that was the day that it solidified it for me that I knew I picked the right place. So freshman orientation, right? You kind of go in and you hear all about what, freshman life is going to be like. But I remember as I'm walking towards freshman orientation, I stop and there's a statue of the Greensboro Four. And, I'm reading the inscription that's on there, and I'm asking a buddy of mine at the time, I was like, hey, what's this all about? And he goes, oh, you never heard of the Greensboro Four? I was like, no. And as he told me, the story of what he knew, and then later that I looked up on later when I looked it up, you know, I knew that I had made the right choice, that this is where I needed to be, right? A place where, four college freshmen, right? Back in the 1960s, decided that enough is enough, and they wanted to stage a sit-in in the Woolworths, because they knew that, injustice wasn't right and that things needed to change. And I could not possibly imagine at 18 or 19 years old taking on that type of responsibility, doing something like that. I was a knucklehead at 18 or 19, right? So to have that wherewithal to look at the situation around you, know that something's got to change. That young was powerful, and these are the type of, these were the footsteps that I was walking in, that I was learning in. And so, to this day, that's still something that I hold near and dear, and that I'm very proud of. And especially, times like this, I'm proud 24/7. Anytime you talk to me, I'll be talking about an HBCU or Black excellence or things of that nature. But February, it's obviously, special. More people are sharing and things like that. And I think people kind of let their guard down. And then we can kind of talk about it a little bit more. And hopefully, right, as we look at the events of this past year, this starts to push us to open our guard up year round, and not just in February, right? I know a lot of people always say like, oh, it's February, it's a short month, all this stuff, or whatever. And I've always been able to, I just look past it. I was like, look, I don't really care what month it is. I don't care if it was 2 days. Like, it's you take advantage of the moment that you have. Like, here's a chance to celebrate, our history as Americans, and a subset of Americans who have gone through trials and tribulations, right? And it's not a pretty part of our history, and no part of history ever is all the way pretty, but it's something that we've got to continue to do and educate. And this is how I believe we can all get closer and start to kind of, bridge this gap and divide. So there you have it. Story time with Dave, proud North Carolina A&T alumni, Aggie pride to all of my Aggies out there. Aggie born, Aggie bred, and when I die, I'll be Aggie dead. Y'all know what it is. So, let's move on. And if you guys hear that background noise from the outside, I'm sorry, but it is really hot in my office, so I have to have the window open. And that's what happens when you do things live. So we're gonna move on. We're gonna talk about GameStop. and all the madness that went down the last couple of weeks. So, as you're watching or listening to this, if you have been living under a rock for the past 2 weeks, there's been a big thing going on with GameStop. And I won't get into too many of the gory details for fear of getting my license affected, because I am a licensed financial professional. But you look, this whole thing was a kind of an interesting time, right? So for those who don't know, GameStop is a video game retailer that sells video game consoles, and has a lot. They do a lot with the resale. You would go in and trade in, like, 30 games for like $5, and then like you could buy another game, right? Okay, I'm exaggerating. For the people that know GameStop, it's one of the biggest things, right? Like, games have like absolutely no value and you need to trade them in. But as the last couple of years, they've been declining, from a business standpoint, because games have moved more digital. Consoles, you can pretty much download the games now. You don't have to buy physical copies. And then with PlayStation and both Xbox kind of rolling out their subscription services to get access to their libraries, there's really no point to having a resale value anymore. So, over the last couple of years, GameStop had been kind of, shuttering stores and things of that nature, and they look like they're heading towards bankruptcy. And so what happened was there was hedge funds that had taken out a massive short position on the company, basically saying, hey, look, we're going to bet that this company's going to lose money. And what happened over the past couple of weeks was something that I thought was, kind of halfway amazing, halfway scary, and just interesting to watch. Was that Wall Street Bets? There was a Reddit group, and a bunch of users there just kind of came up and said, hey, look, we're fed up with this. Why are these hedge funders, taking out these huge short positions, trying to, throw this company in the ground or drive this company to the ground? Let's do a short squeeze. That's basically when you have people who take out short positions, say, hey, I think it's going to go down. Well, if you get enough people to go buy and force the stock to go up, those people who are expecting to go down, they're losing money, right? And at some point, they have to like cash out of those positions, but it's more expensive if you keep driving the price up. So that's exactly what happened. And we just saw, the price just rose to just ridiculous numbers. At one point, I saw it was trading like at $354. This is for a stock that was trading like at $4, like almost a year and a half ago or something like that. So, and none of the business fundamentals made sense, right? Like, you looked at the fundamentals of the business, it was like, it is not worth this valuation. And so it caused a huge uproar. Everybody was covering it. It was crazy. It caused even more things to happen with, Robinhood, which was one of the retailers that a lot of these retail investors were using, because they allow you to trade for free, right? That you don't get any commission fee trade, which, I think, we got to put some respect on Robinhood's name, because they were one of the pioneers, I feel like, to do that, right? And maybe there was somebody before, but I feel like when Robinhood really started to become a thing, every single brokerage had to then start going to commission-free trading. So we got to give Robinhood a little bit of its flowers before it's due, because they may not be around much longer, because after that, they got themselves into a little bit of, I don't want to say trouble, but they took some scrutiny after that, because it was so much volatility that Robinhood had to end up, limiting the ability for people to take positions, and it just kind of caused this big, huge uproar to where it looks like Robinhood was trying to protect the hedge funders, and it's like, hey, you Robinhood, for God's sake, you're supposed to be for the people, and so of course, obviously, anything like that happens, there's going to be investigations, and so I believe there's a Senate hearing coming up. But it was all just very interesting to watch, and for me, I think the most fascinating thing to me was that you saw this group of people, this large group of people, right? Because it took that much to be able to get this much volatility and this much volume to be able to go against these hedge funders. But for me, I was like, it's happy. I was excited to see this many people actually taking an interest into finance and investing. Right now, granted, even though this was probably just trying to get this win and taking advantage of the system, but still, you've got a massive amount of people who are interested and are now following this, and so that there's some. I look at that as a silver lining. Now, everything else behind it, right? We're going to see over the next couple of weeks how this rolls out. But honestly, when I look at it, is just we got a chance to see that. I think all the public got a chance to see the game that is played when it comes to finance, and it's one of the things that I talk about a lot, not a lot on this podcast, because I've been figuring out safe ways for me to do so. Because again, like I said, I am a licensed finance professional, so there's very tight regulations of what I can and can't say and stuff like that or whatever. But I've always felt like that finance is like it's like becoming Neo in the Matrix once you understand it and you see how money works and all these things that are out there and the ability to take advantage of a lot of the things that are there. So while I applauded them on that end, I was like, look, hey, you're playing the same game. You're able to beat them. I don't necessarily know if I agree with the motives, right? The motives were a little scary of why they were kind of coming after, but we'll see. We'll continue to see and kind of watch the aftermath of that. So that's it. That's about all I want to say about that. I do want to roll out. I've got some surprises for you, and surprises are always great. And so I want to give you guys a surprise because you're the C3 Squad. Hey, what's going on? Hold on. Got to get to the comments. How you doing, Miss Chambers? Glad to have you on the stream, hanging out. I see you. So I wanted to roll out, and I should do the beta chat overlay. I've been playing. Restream has rolled out. Shout out to Restream, right? They have rolled out some amazing features for this platform that I use to do this streaming. They rolled out a beta chat, right? So you can kind of see as people chat in there. But as you can see, when they rolled it out, I wasn't aware of it, so I got to redo my graphics. So I'm not going to be using it as much. So I'll just have to make sure I pay attention to the chat and show that. But I want to. I want to tell you guys about a new feature that I'm rolling out with the podcast, and it's the C3 Squad Hotline. Yep, but it's not the hotline that you're thinking of. But it's a number where you can text live. Numbers there on the screen for those of you listening. It's 909-487-8741, and you can engage directly with me, right? And I was so excited when I found this and I wanted to roll this out because obviously if you're watching the stream and you're here now, you can engage with me, we can chat back and forth, but a lot of people watch this on demand and so they get it later, and I wanted them a chance to feel like it's an interactive podcast. And so when you listen to it, whatever you get it, if there's something in that you have a question about and you're like, hey Dave, I really like your opinion on that, or you want to yell at me and just disagree with me, now you have a chance to do it. Right here, 909-487-8741. It is the C3 Squad Hotline. You can text me, and we can text back and forth whenever you want. Now, it's not a live number. Like, you can't call it up and talk to me. It won't work that way. You'll get a voicemail message telling you to send a text. But it's a great way to kind of stay engaged. So I'm really excited about this and looking forward to rolling this out and doing some special things for the C3 Squad members that get in on that community, right? So going back into some more of the things that I wanted to talk about, C3 Squad, we are growing. We are growing fast, and I'm so super thankful for everybody that listens to this podcast, that hangs out with me on the live streams. So doing more things for you guys this year. I promised you discounts on merch. We did that last year, so we're going to do some more discounts, some more merch coming this year. But also, we're going to do some special content, right? So some special content specifically for the C3 Squad. And so if you are not part of the C3 Squad, of course, you can always listen to the podcast, and that's cool. But if you are a part of the C3 Squad, you will get access to some special content coming down, some intros to some previews to some of the new things that are coming out to the On the Corner Podcast Network, and some other things, right? I don't want to spoil it, obviously. So make sure you're a part of the C3 Squad. There's two ways to sign up. Obviously, you can go to the website, c3.onthecorner.us, and there's a link there to join the C3 Squad. Just give me your name, email address, or you can join the C3 Squad Hotline, 909-487-8741, and that'll also get you into the C3 Squad and get you into access to some of the special things that are coming up. Like I said, special content, discounts on merch, new merch is coming that I'm going to be putting up in the store. So we're going to be pushing that heavily this weekend and starting to just kind of give you all like a behind the scenes look at some of the things that we do here on the Corner Media Company and the C3 Podcast Network. So super excited about that. The C3 Squad Hotline is out, 909-487-8741. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, Dave, hold on. Now, I know that you are based out of Austin, Texas. That is true. I am based out of Austin, Texas. So why do you have a 909 hotline number? Well, when I came across this opportunity to do this, I was like, well, it's got to represent me, right? And the 909, man, that's home. That's home for me. Now, granted, I was born and raised outside of Los Angeles, California, but I spent most of my time out in the 909, the Inland Empire, the IE, before it was the IE, when it was just tumbleweeds and dirt. Right. One of the OGs from the 909. So I said, look, if I'm going to have a number, right, I could have said, all right, yeah, I can go 310, I can go 213 and stuff like that or whatever. And that's LA. I get it. Spend a lot of time. I spend my summers in LA and hanging out. But I was like, man, the 909 is that's really home. That's where I kind of became that started the path on the man I am today. I won't say that's where I became the man I am today. That was definitely in North Carolina at A&T, growing and doing there. But the 909 is kind of where I spent the high school and went through everything, right? Played football, you had your first breakups, the first time getting cut, the first time, starting on varsity, all those things or whatever that you go through that you remember. So that's why I chose the 909 for the C3 Squad Hotline. I can't wait to interact with all of you guys. And like I said, hit the hotline up whenever when you hear a podcast, and you can even go back, listen to older podcasts. Hit me up. Let me know what you thought, right? Let me know if you feel like that there's been an improvement from then until now. So super excited to roll that out. Also, like I said, get so many things coming on the On the Corner podcast network that I cannot wait for you all to listen to. It is so hard not to give everything away, but we got to build up a little excitement. We got to, build up a little anticipation. But it is definitely coming. And like I said, some specialized content coming just for the C3 Squad. So with that, first live podcast of the year 2021. We're going to keep it short. Didn't really have much. So glad to be here with you guys. So much more coming. Let me give you a little headlines of what's coming on the C3 pod this month, right? So I got some special things that I want to do this month. We're going to do a little bit. We're going to do more lives this month, but you will be getting some recorded pods. So working on some things where I'm going to take a little bit of a track off of the. We're going to get off of the technical as much and specifically for this month. So there's a thing that I'm doing on Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, is DL Presidente on Instagram. I'm doing this thing, 30 Days of Finance, 30 Days of Free Game Finance February, right? And so the thing behind that was I was like, all right, look, Black History Month is coming up. I love Black History Month. I'm going to be saying a lot about things about the different heroes that we have from the civil rights movement and just in the African-American community in general. But I also wanted to start talking about our future, right? We talk a lot about our history, where we come from, but let's talk about our future and some of the things that are there. And there's nothing to me that's more important than that than finance. So I decided 30 Days of Free Game. Every single day, going to be posting content on Instagram about it. And I'm actually in Clubhouse as well, doing Clubhouse, audio rooms, just kind of talking about some of the things from finance perspective. And so with that, I'm going to roll some of that into the podcast. Excuse me. We're going to have a show this month, just kind of talk about a different look at finance, right? And how you can go about looking at the 9-to-5 work and retirement in a different way. So I think that's going to be fun. We're going to get into that. Got some other guests coming through. Obviously, we'll get back into some of the cybersecurity stuff as well, some of the identity stuff that you guys know and love from the C3 podcast. And of course, we're going to be talking about diversity and inclusion, because we're always talking about diversity and inclusion in this podcast. So lots of good stuff coming on the C3 pod. You guys excited? I'm excited. I am super excited. Can't wait to have you. Oh, also, wait a minute. Podcast shout out. So, Hello User, podcast by Ping Identity by my guy, Richard Bird. They just launched that maybe about a week ago. Go ahead and tune into that. You might see a special guest that you know from a certain media group on the corner, who hosts a certain podcast, the C3 podcast, may or may not be a guest on there in the next couple of weeks. That's all I'm gonna say. But check it out. Hello User, the Ping Identity podcast. Your boy may or may not be a special guest on that pod. I don't know. I'm just saying. You'll have to tune in to find out. But y'all know what it is. Until the next cocktail, until the next conversation. Y'all enjoy 2021. Y'all be safe. We ain't out this thing yet. We ain't out this pandemic yet. So continue to be vigilant, continue to be safe. We'll see y'all next time.